This week, I believe 15,000 people came for our rally. This was the largest rally we've ever had. Usually we stage a large demonstration so that we are visible. But since this was spontaneous, we were just standing on this ladder.
David Tbilisi is one of the leaders of the Georgian white noise movement, which has been pushing the decriminalization for various drugs since 2015. It was white noise which had been organizing protests meetings in Tbilisi, although the question of drug policies hasn't been coming up to these days. The night of May 12th, Georgian police conducted a set of raids against popular nightclubs in Tbilisi. They arrested several people on the charges of drug trafficking. These raids were considered to have been highly aggressive. After the raids, nightclub attendees had gone onto the streets to protest. On the 12th of May, outside of the Georgian parliament, they demanded the resignation of the Prime Minister and Minister of Internal Affairs. The protest itself resembled a rave, with people listening to loud music and dancing.
People were dancing and some had been there at that moment, including my sister. After that, there was huge criticism as to how someone can dance near a memorial. The argument was that dancing is not wrong and that it's a normal and a positive thing. The people who died here and to whom the monument is dedicated also danced and sang until soldiers came with guns and so on.
Dances near the monument, which was put up in memory of the dead at a time when the 1989 rallies were being disbanded, were perceived to be blasphemous by nationalist and far-right organizations. They also accused the dancing protesters of drug propaganda. Fearing clashes with these radical groups, protesters decided to suspend their actions. Thus, Georgia was split into two camps.
This is a celebration of the holiness of the family event. We just want to give everyone love, and that's all, nothing else.
The Day of the Holiness of the Family is a relatively recent holiday in Georgia. It was declared in 2014 by the Georgian Orthodox Patriarch Ilya II. The rest of the world marks this as a day of anti-homophobia. Orthodox Georgians annually attend the march. Representatives of the LGBT community try not to hold any meetings on this day in order to not provoke any conflict. This year, many celebrating the holiday criticized the dance protests.
Excuse me, please, those weren't people there. They were only gays. I'll say it up front. Gay is a weak word. There were faggots standing over there. I hate them. Those weren't people. A bunch of spoiled youths were there.
On the evening of May 18th, LGBT organizers gathered near the state chancellery in the center of Tbilisi. Those gatherings in Georgia are protected. Cordons of guards closed all entrances into the building.
I want to live freely, calmly, to be like everyone else. I'm not a lesbian, I'm simply a person, I'm for freedom.
Homophobia is actually blooming on the streets. I have repeatedly been a victim of homophobia, as well as my 19-year-old son, just because he has long hair. For some reason, he's included. Someone didn't like that. There are many of these people. We haven't done anything wrong to anyone. I'm also here because I don't want fascists to be able to calmly congregate in my country. We defeated fascism once already. Their time is over. This is the 21st century, people.
Near the parliament, 500 meters away, there was a meeting of anti-LGBT activists. Many of them hold far-right views. They stood there till the late evening, even when the anti-homophobia protesters had driven away on the bus.
On the 17th of May, Georgian Orthodox Patriarch Ilya II declared it the Day of the Family. Sexual minorities, representatives of the LGBT community, decide to do stage protests on this day each year. There was a request today for this demonstration not to take place, and they had promised it won't be held. They even announced it on television, but in reality, we looked away for 1 second and they appeared, closed off and protected by police, hiding from us. This meeting here is a rally against them. Excuse me for being so blunt, but we hate faggots and lesbians. We are Georgians, real Georgians, and we love our country. Georgians live here. What sort of Georgians are they? Don't they have any faith? No, they have no faith.
David Tbilisi says that the dance protests included many members of the LGBT community. Anna and Katie, who came for the anti-homophobia meeting, also protested on the 12th of May. They say they came out for freedom for all.
For some reason, they thought that we were defending people who were selling drugs. We're just defending our freedom. We want to live calmly, to work and to live our lives. I genuinely don't get it. Some people like to drink. I like LSD. What's the issue? I'm not doing anything bad to anyone.
Drugs serve as another stumbling block within Georgian society.
Towards the end of 2015, there was a general decision of the Constitutional Court that if someone has at least 70 grams of marijuana, they can imprison them.
The goal of white noise is full decriminalization of all drugs in Georgia. In 2017, Parliament even considered such a bill.
It was important for us to work on the entire drug policy. We couldn't focus solely on marijuana or light drugs, as they are called, which are used by clubbers and ravers. This is because people who use harder drugs are in a worse state. This isn't just a question of rights for them, but a question of health as well. If the principle changes, then it should change for everything. We wrote a bill proposal which closely resembles the system that was put in place in Portugal.
But the policy proposal hasn't been even looked at. David bitterly states that the deputies deceived him, while the nationalist organizations have launched a campaign against white noise and its supporters.
We said that we can put in decriminalization just like many countries in Europe and in the world generally have done. Our opponents started saying that this isn't a movement for users but for sellers, for drug dealers, they say. The first 2 years of our work had nothing to do with that. When everything was reaching the moment when a decision had to be made, they began to worsen our chances with such company. Even to this day, when we gather here, these same people come and say that these are drug dealers and traffickers.
The Conservatives in Georgia responded very negatively to the idea of liberalizing drug laws.
In liberalizing and decriminalizing things, they want drugs as well. This is a horror. How can the government consider this acceptable? This is a sickness, a loss of character. How can the government lose its character?
I don't know, they want some kind of legalization in place, but we consider it illegal, we are against it. And why you're against it? Because we are Orthodox, we need dignity, family dignity.
On the 19th of May, the dance protest was supposed to resume, but they had decided to cancel it. David Tbilisi stated that the protesters are seeking new outlets to reach to the government. Georgian journalist Dmitry Avliani is sure, after all this, as far-right organizations had a role in putting an end to the dance protest, a dangerous precedent had been set.
The protest didn't take place because there were threats by some far-right groups, and this will continue to go on. Those far-right groups understood that they have the power to influence the position of the other side, to the position of the state, and they will continue doing so because they know they can. You need to understand that a very bad precedent has been set, that people who gathered with legitimate grievances, fully, legally, having broken no laws, peacefully were told that their activism wasn't acceptable. The way they look is unacceptable, the way they dance, and so on. And for that response, they have to leave.
The days when there are no protests or meetings, everything is calm in Georgia. White Noise is saying that there will be no protests in the coming weeks. David Tbilisi is sure that there is no unsolvable schism in the Georgian society yet. As such, there is still a chance to find common ground.